Alright guys, welcome back to another one. So I've actually been playing the new Ratchet Clank Ranger Rumble, which is an online multiplayer arena shooter for iOS and Android. This game was announced yesterday, and no, I wasn't invited to a playtest or anything, because the game actually soft launched over in the Philippines. So yeah, you can actually play the game right now if you set your App Store region to the Philippines. This is the strangest launch of a game I think I've seen. Pre-registration currently exists for all other regions around the world, but the actual game has released only in the Philippines, which is totally bizarre. So I have to imagine that other parts of the world will be receiving the game at some point very soon, before the year's end. Now I have played a few hours of this game, and I definitely do have some opinions. I will start off by saying though that it's definitely not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I guess when one of your favorite game franchises of like all time ends up getting a brand new installment, but to your disappointment you find out it's a mobile phone game, the excitement and hype levels decrease significantly. But I've actually been enjoying my time with this. It's a fun little multiplayer arena shooter based around Ratchet & Clank, and it actually works kind of well. That's not surprising though, because I think Ratchet & Clank actually works quite well in this genre. And what's funny about this game is it gives me heavy vibes of Ratchet & Clank 3 multiplayer. I don't know how many of you guys ended up playing the multiplayer aspect of Ratchet & Clank 3 on PS2 back in the day, but it definitely gives me those vibes, and that makes me very happy. The release version here though is feeling a little bit bare bones in the way of content. There are currently only 3 game modes. The first one here is Bolt Rush. The objective is to collect 200 bolts. The first to 200 bolts then becomes king, and they must hold that status for 20 seconds to win. You gain bolts by, you guessed it, breaking crates, defeating enemies that will spawn throughout the match, as well as defeating players. However, if you're defeated by a player, you'll lose some of the bolts that you're currently carrying. The next game mode is Total Rumble. It's an 8v8 free-for-all match, and the first to get to 8 eliminations wins. This game mode contains different map layouts, but within the same locations as Bolt Rush, as Bolt Rush has to support mob spawns and mini-bosses, whereas Total Mayhem has a lot more wall running opportunities, grind rails, boost pads, as well as power-up spawns. The last game mode is Blast Ball. This is a Ratchet & Clank spin on the classic Rocket League type thing. You've got a big ball and you've got to get it in to a goal. This contains teams of 3, and it of course is Ratchet & Clank, so that means that you can use your currently equipped guns to take out enemies while you're trying to score. All 3 of these game modes are fine, and honestly they are pretty fun. I especially like Bolt Rush. However, on average, matches typically last anywhere from like 2 to 4 minutes, so these are short, bursty matches. And unfortunately, aside from Blast Ball, there are no team-orientated modes, so like no capture the flag or team deathmatch. Both Bolt Rush and Total Rumble are free-for-all modes. So the core gameplay experience here right now, it just feels a little bit underwhelming and quite basic. There also isn't very many maps here either, which leads to the game feeling just a little bit repetitive. Right now, the only planets we have are Kerwin as well as Tauren 4, and then there are multiple maps that take place in each of these planets. The thing is though, I don't know if this is like the full release of the game or if this is some pre-release version that for some weird reason is only available in Singapore, because it might be a case that there are more maps and game modes. Now actually playing the game does feel good, super responsive. I'm playing on an iPhone 15 Pro, so it was locked to 60 frames per second on the ultra graphic setting. Visually, the game looks really nice. Again, it's this sort of cartoonified take, more so than usual on Ratchet & Clank, and I think the aesthetic is actually pretty cool. The biggest disappointment here about the actual gameplay and the control scheme, though, is there is no controller support as of right now. Plugging in a controller, the game actually does recognize it, but there are currently no controller input, so I'd have to imagine that at a later stage, eventually controller support will be added. It absolutely needs to be added though, because a game like Ratchet & Clank, a third-person shooter that is as frantic as it is incredibly awkward with the on-screen touch controls that you have to use. it's really bad. Thank God there is an auto fire mode, so this firing mode, all you gotta do is look at an enemy and you will automatically start shooting. There are 2 other shooting modes though, a double tap mode and a dedicated fire button, but because it is just so utterly frustrating to use the on-screen touch controls, which I get it, it's a personal preference, some people probably don't mind this, but I personally just cannot stand it. Yeah, it does make controlling the game feel a little bit awkward from time to time. You are able to customize the HUD though, so you can move around the button positions and make a layout that is more comfortable for you, as well as choosing which side is for movement and which side is for your camera. You're able to save these to different presets and configure different button sizes and whatnot, so this is always nice. At least, you know, if we are forced to use touch controls, having HUD customization is a nice thing. Every character's got a built-in hover pack, so holding down the jump button will allow you to hover. We've also got the rift apart dash, which after use will go on a cooldown. Obviously wrench attacks are here, and you can switch between 3 equipped guns. Now originally I was thinking that you'd be able to create your own original Ratchet & Clank character and you'd be able to customize them, but no, it's more like a hero shooter here, where there are a handful of unique characters with their own unique ultimate ability, as well as differing stats. Now all of these new hero characters are actually very real, new, official Ratchet & Clank characters that are intertwined into the main canon of the series. Each character has detailed information write-ups on their backstory and how they fit into the universe. Widget, for example, was an investigative journalist during the Kragmite War. Mott's was a double agent in Gorda, one of the planets from the original Ratchet & Clank 1, who would infiltrate crime syndicates throughout the city. And Sprocketier was one of the chief engineers throughout the Great War. It's really cool to see a bunch of new original characters for Ratchet & Clank, especially Lombaxes, as we haven't really seen too many of them. The actual lore of Rumble Ranger here though is that it's all happening within a simulation, training recruits for the Galactic Rangers, run by both Quark and Ratchet. By the way, there's this really cool little detail during the tutorial segment where Quark is trying to spawn in Ratchet's avatar into the simulation and he accidentally spawns in Ratchet's PlayStation 2 model. I actually love this. There are like quite a few little details here that tells me that the devs of this game, OBB, are actually quite passionate about Ratchet & Clank. Like, the soul of Ratchet & Clank is most certainly here in the smaller details when looking at the guns or the way that the story is presented to you, or of course the music. Yes, that is in fact a new rendition of Veldon's theme. The only thing that is solace is of course it being a mobile phone game, and that means that it comes along with all of the typical mobile phone game slop and stickiness. Now progression comes in the form of unlocking new heroes and upgrading them, along with unlocking new guns and upgrading those too. There is something about this system that does concern me though. As you upgrade both your hero and your guns, the stats of which do increase. For heroes, this can be power, health, and speed. And for guns, this is power, damage, fire rate, and range. Now, I've got no idea how the matchmaking system of this game works, but hypothetically speaking, let's say that a whale has taken out a second mortgage in order to throw money into this game so that they can completely upgrade both their hero and the guns they're currently equipped with. That way, they've got absolutely insane stats, especially when looking at health, because increasing your hero's level increases how much health you have. How exactly is that going to be balanced in the multiplayer? Because like, this is a multiplayer game. Right now it seems kind of fine because like the game has only just come out in the Philippines, though I am led to believe that because it doesn't seem like there are many people playing the game right now, most of the people I'm matching with are actually bots. I've been winning like every single match I've been playing, so I'm pretty sure they're bots. But it does concern me for the longevity of this game, say 6 months after launch. If someone were to install the game then, they'd be versing people who've been playing for the past 6 months who have absolutely out-leveled guns and heroes. At the same time too, the matchmaking system can't work in a way where it matches you with people who have similar hero and gun levels to yourself, because that would just spread the player base way too thin, and it means that you would just be constantly matching with bots, which after a while just isn't really that fun. I probably don't need to explain to you guys like how the upgrade systems of this game works. It is a mobile phone game, so if you played one before, you know how it works. There is a specific currency known as weapon tokens to unlock weapons. From there, you'll need a specific weapon blueprint in order to upgrade that said weapon. There's a separate currency to unlock heroes, character tokens, and then in order to upgrade the heroes, you'll need an additional currency, hero lords. There's also an all general purposes currency known as credits, you know, with a Q because it's quark credit, so it's known as credits. Enhancements can also be applied to guns as well, which changes the way that they work, which is separate to that of weapon leveling, but that requires yet again another currency known as cores. And of course, we've got the premium currency, Raritanium. And this can act as any other currency or resource in the game. It's most certainly not a mobile game unless it's got at minimum 5 different currency types. Now the good news here is you're able to obtain all of these different currency types, even including the premium currency, by just simply playing the game and completing missions. You've got your daily login rewards, daily free shop items, the chapter challenges, there's quests. Each hero character also gains a set amount of medals after completing matches. This is a separate XP system to the core hero leveling system, so putting a decent amount of playtime into each hero will garner you rewards. The hero medal system is also integrated into another reward system known as Medal Run, which is a cumulative reward system with different tiers of rewards based on how many total hero medals you have. And of course, you guessed it, there is also a battle pass. But the good news is it does have a free tier. So there are quite a few different ways to actually progress through the game without having to spend any money. The only thing that I'm seeing right here that absolutely requires you to swipe that credit card is cosmetics. There are unique outfits for each of the heroes throughout the game. Otherwise, the shop just contains your typical bundles of different resource currencies. Unfortunately though, this does mean that the game is absolutely pay to win. If someone is going to chuck in large amounts of money into this game, this means that they're going to be able to level all of their stuff up, which means that they will have an edge when it comes to the multiplayer modes. So that right there is a massive, massive concern of mine. I am at least happy to see that guns and hero characters can be obtained by just playing the game, because I was almost sure that the devs would end up selling these for money. And speaking of the weapons, by the way, there is a really, really good variety of weapons. They're all mainly from Rift Apart, but there are some here from like Ratchet Clank 2 or Tools of Destruction. It's clear that the devs actually did their homework. Like, I really can't believe we have the OG Rhino 1 and Tesla Claw from Ratchet Clank 1. That's insane work, good job devs. Overall, it's a fun little Ratchet & Clank title from what I've experienced so far. I do have some major concerns about the balancing though. I think this in itself is going to be enough to turn anyone off. Also, it's a damn shame that this game is not launching, at least at the very minimum, on PC as well. It's the type of game that would feel absolutely so much better to play on a big screen with a controller. Another thing that the devs absolutely need to look at though is like content, because I think that people are going to get kind of bored of this game after playing it for a few days. There really needs to be something here that keeps people coming back and wanting to play a game mode that has significantly more depth than what's on offer as of right now. Because yeah, while it's fun to jump in and play a few matches that only last about 3 minutes, get some kills, jump around and smash some boxes, I think that novelty is going to wear thin incredibly quick. Otherwise though, while I know that so many people are disappointed with this, me too kind of, I do consider it to be really just a bonus. I wasn't expecting anything more to do with Ratchet & Clank until about 2029 at the earliest. However, if you want to try it out right now, just simply switch your App Store region to Singapore and give it a shot. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to slap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. A big thank you to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk again real soon.